In March, the Nintendo Switch will officially have been 6 years old. And in that time, there have been over 4,000 games launched on the platform. That's a lot of games to choose from. So today, I'm going to go through all of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch and tell you which ones I just can't live without. Now, I've already done a video like this almost 9 months ago, but I thought I would do an updated version as the list has definitely changed. Since I made that video, I have been actively trying to find new indie games and try games that are just outside of my comfort zone. And because of that, I think I found some new favorite games that aren't just Nintendo first-party ones. But before we get into my top favorite games, let's just quickly take a look at some games that were in my previous list that haven't actually made it to this one. The first game we're going to cover is Splatoon 2. And that's basically because Splatoon 3's out. Splatoon 2 is no longer getting regular updates, the player base is going down with every new player that buys Splatoon 3, and overall it's just not a game I play nor recommend buying anymore. You also might be surprised to know that I'm not including Splatoon 3 in this list either, and that's mainly because I just haven't been having fun playing it. I can't really figure out what's changed. Is it me? Is it the game? But I'm really not vibing with Splatoon 3 in the same way I vibed with Splatoon 2. In fact, I haven't even been excited for the Splatfest, which used to be one of my favorite parts. I think a big reason why I'm not vibing with it is the matchmaking. I seem to lose way more than I seem to win, and 90% of the time it doesn't even feel like the games are close, even in Turf War. Splatoon 3 is genuinely fantastic. It is a great shooter game on the Switch and a great multiplayer one. I just don't vibe with it anymore. I've also gotten rid of Switch Sports and Mario Party. Both are fantastic games in their own right, and both of them are the first games I go to when I'm with family and when I'm with friends. They are wonderful to play as a group. But this year's list has gotten really close and really tight, and I feel like I can't include two games that I only ever play when I'm with other people, when I live alone and mostly play by myself. So they're fantastic and they have their place in my playing repertoire, just not top 10 material. The next game that didn't make it to my top 10 list that previously did is Rayman Legends. I still think the game is fantastic. It is ridiculous value for money. It is often on sale for just over £5. It is brilliant. It's just no longer top 10 material, and I can't keep the memories of me and my dad playing it together as a reason why it should deserve to be in the top 10. I just don't play it enough to warrant it anymore. Now it's time for my top 10 games on the Nintendo Switch. But before we do that, I just want to thank today's sponsor, NordVPN. If you're a lover of games, of streaming services, or you just want to keep your information safe and private while searching the web, a VPN is what you need. NordVPN is easy to use and can be used on every major platform, even including Android TV. NordVPN is more than just a VPN though, as it also offers threat protection. This can make surfing the web safer and easier by not only blocking intrusive ads and web trackers, but it also scans downloaded files for malware and blocks dangerous links even if you click them by accident. For streaming services, you can literally open a map, click on a location, and see all the movies and TV shows you can access there instead. And right now, NordVPN have a great offer where you can get a huge discount on a 2-year plan and an added bonus as well. And the best part is, it's also completely risk-free, as NordVPN offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. And to get a hold of this exclusive offer, you can either use the link on the screen or in the description now. Thank you again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. The first game on my list is Fire Emblem Three Houses. And yes, I have played Fire Emblem Engage, and I stand by my decision. Now, whether you prefer Fire Emblem Three Houses or Fire Emblem Engage depends on one thing. Do you prefer the fighting, or do you prefer the story and every other aspect other than just the battles? If the battles themselves are not your favorite part of this type of game, then Fire Emblem Three Houses is the one for you. Both Fire Emblem Three Houses and Engage are a tactical RPG. And I must admit, Fire Emblem Engage looks a lot better than Fire Emblem Three Houses, although Three Houses is still gorgeous. The main way they differ though is not in the battles, and not even to a certain extent the story, but it's everything else. In Fire Emblem Three Houses, not only do you have the incredible story, which was literally breathtaking and had 4 different endings, outside of the battles, you had the entire school to go around. And although I understand people who felt overwhelmed by the amount to do in the school, everything you did felt meaningful. You could talk to each of the characters and have some sort of relationship with them outside of the battlefield. You could get to know them, spend time with them, and even see how they interacted with each other. And to me personally, it was the school that really solidified this in my top 10, because all this extra detail really made the characters feel alive and really made me feel like I knew them. Like, you could tell if they had a crush on each other, you could talk to them, learn about their family, and learn about their history on top of the person they are today. In Fire Emblem Engage, there is kind of a similar hub area, but other than buying armor and weapons and that kind of thing, it feels largely pointless. When the developers spoke about Fire Emblem Engage, they talked about streamlining the process to get you to a battle as quickly as possible. And that's what they did, but in doing so, it lost a lot of its charm for me. Now, admittedly, I can't really comment too much on Engage's story as I'm not that far through it yet, as it only came out like a week ago. But to me, unless you're really into just the battling side, Engage literally just feels like you're going from battle to cutscene to battle, and that's it. So for me personally, I don't think I've made a connection with the characters in the same way that I did in Three Houses. In Three Houses, not only could you get to know characters, you could romance them and marry them at the end of the game. I felt like I knew each character in depth, which meant when I went to the battlefield, the stakes were even higher. All of these characters I knew and loved, and I didn't want to see any one of them fall on the battlefield, so every move counted. In Engage, because I don't have this relationship, battles don't feel as important, and for me personally, they just feel like a way to just get me to the next cutscene, because I am interested in the story. Three Houses will always have a special place in my heart because the story was so good. I fell in love with Edelgard and so many other characters. And to me, it was everything other than the battles that made the game special. So Three Houses goes above Engage in my books. Next will come as no surprise for long-time viewers, but it's Beacon Pines. This has to be my #1 indie game of all time. And that's mainly because it's unlike anything I have ever played before, and I love it to pieces. In Beacon Pines, you play as the reader and the main character, Luca. The story sees Luca and his friends investigate the strange goings-on in Beacon Pines, as for some reason it seems to be that you and your friends are the only ones who notice the weird things that seem to be happening. And this is where the game really gets unique. As the reader, you'll reach portions in the story where a word is left blank, and it's up to you to insert words that you find through playing the game called Charms to decide where the story goes. Every single word you pick causes a branch in the story, and as you'll soon find out, most of the endings you'll come to won't be happy, but every unhappy ending you have might give you another word you can use in a different branch of the story that leads to a happier one. And don't be fooled by how cute the characters look. The story is very dark, but incredibly interesting, and I guarantee you will not be able to put the game down once you start playing it. I kept on telling myself I'd only play for 10 more minutes, and then I got to a really interesting part of the story, and next thing I know, it's been another 2 hours. This has to be the most invested I've been in a game in a long time, and the cool part is, although it's kind of short, there's actually a free update coming kind of soon that will even include mini-games. The game has so much character and so much charm, and even though it's dark, it's never gory. And I never felt frustrated about going down the wrong route, as it always gives me some information, or I'd learn something new about a few characters that truly changed everything in the story so far. Genuinely one of my favorite games of all time, probably the most underrated game I have ever played. And so many people who have picked it up when I've recommended it have said it's fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. Next is another game that has plenty of updates on the way, and that's Disney Dreamlight Valley. Now, previously, I have never put it in my top 10 list, as I felt like the bugs and the issues with the game overshadowed how fun the game is. But seeing as I have over 200 hours in the game, and the things they have just announced, it's made it back into the top 10. This is probably the game that has been the closest to filling my Animal Crossing void in a while as well, as you spend a lot of time running around the island, helping out Disney villagers the same way you used to do in Animal Crossing with those villagers. On top of that, you can even fish, farm, and decorate too, which means it's just one of my go-to life sims. But the reason why it's edged its way into the top 10 is because we've just seen the 2023 roadmap and it looks good. In fact, it's only probably a few weeks away until we get our next round of updates, and I'm very excited. In these updates alone, it looks like we're going to be getting a Lion King realm, the appearance of Maribel and Olaf, at least one Disney princess is on the way, not to mention the star paths, which are like battle passes that will also be changing with each update. And I had 200 hours in the game without these updates, so think how much more I'm going to be playing after that. But it made the top 10 because it looks like these updates are going to be going on for years to come. The game first came out in September 2022, and since then we have had endless amount of updates, quality of life improvements, new characters, and new realms. And it looks like that's not going to stop anytime soon. And this is exactly what I need to keep on playing the game. The Disney characters have so much charm, and I feel like I'm genuinely speaking to the characters from the movies. Each realm has so much character, and the music for the realms, even though I can't play it because of copyright, is so good. It makes you feel like you're literally walking around in the films. We also know we're getting more customization options and better storage, which I cannot wait for. And if you just take a run around the castle, you know that there is so much more content to come. It looks like we're going to get years worth of updates. I will admit, not all the bugs on the Nintendo Switch are fixed, and we don't know when the game will be coming free to play. That wasn't included whatsoever, but I've really been enjoying it nonetheless. It's brought me so much serotonin and joy, and it's such a nice game to just log in daily. I just hope they give us a little bit more content so I can spend a little bit longer playing it each day. This nicely brings us on to Animal Crossing, who did the opposite and only gave us 2 years worth of updates. However, this will always be my #1 recommendation to new Nintendo Switch players, especially if you're a cozy gamer. It is the only game my mum currently owns on the Switch, and she's not too great with technology, but she doesn't really get stuck in Animal Crossing whatsoever. And despite the fact that I don't pick it up as often as I maybe want to, as I've just played the game so much, there's one thing that keeps me coming back to the game unlike any other, and that's its events. There is no other game that does Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving better than Animal Crossing does. The way the villagers act, their conversations with you, the event characters, everything you need to do on that day to enjoy the day in the game is just perfect. And whilst I wish they did more with the game, it has been my go-to game whenever I feel lonely or down, as the villagers just always know the right things to say. So do I still recommend this in 2023? 100%. If you've never played it before, love life sims, Animal Crossing is probably still the one that does it the best. I'm not going to spend too long on the next one. I'm just going to say Breath of the Wild. My only criticism with Breath of the Wild was that there wasn't enough cutscenes. I lived for every snippet of the story the game gave me. And to me, this is a cozy game. I loved exploring the map. I loved finding the hidden Koroks and all the secrets of each area. And if you come across an enemy like a Lionel that you struggle with, just run away screaming. That's what I did, and that kind of worked. This was one of the first games I got on my Switch, and I wouldn't say I'm a good gamer, but I made my way through the game bit by bit. I did everything other than fight Ganon. I haven't done that yet, but that's for one reason. I didn't want the game to end, and then I put it down for so long I couldn't remember how to play. So I need to play it all the way through again to get to the ending, so I'll be ready for Breath of the Wild 2. But as I said, I won't spend too long on it. I feel like everyone's heard of the game. Everyone knows why everyone loves it. It was critically acclaimed, but I'm just going to say I personally loved it for a lot of the same reasons everyone else did. And despite having fighting in, I found it really chill and one of my go-to games to just run around in, even when I was stressed. Apart from the sword trial in the DLC, me and that did not get along. The next game might surprise you being on my list, as the last time I only made it an honorable mention. But since the last DLC wave, it's come back into the top 10. It's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, I must slightly apologize at this point. I did previously say I regretted paying for the DLC. I officially take that back. I don't apologize for what I said though. The first and second wave were meh, but the most recent wave changed my mind. I really liked it, and it's brought it back into the top 10 because I've been playing it again recently and having a great time. And the wild part is we've only experienced half of the wave releases so far. We've had 3 of them and there's 6 total. So I'm going to take back my previous statement. I do think the DLC is worth it. I have a lot of fun playing online still to this day, and this is the only racing game I have ever cared for or will ever care for. Also, weirdly enough, this is my go-to game if I'm like mega stressed. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's because I've played it so much that it doesn't require much thought whatsoever. But whenever I'm really going through it, I find myself sat in front of the TV playing game after game of Mario Kart. So if you're stressed, try it. It might also work for you. And I think in the last update, they also finally let you have more control over the items in custom tournaments. So I've seen a fair amount of tournaments where the only item you'll receive is a blue shell. And I live for that chaos. Next is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This has knocked Xenoblade Chronicles 2 off of its pedestal. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will go down as one of my favorite games of all time. There are not many games that can get me to cry full stop, but this is the only game to have me like blubbering. There were multiple times in the story where I was a complete mess, and that's mainly down to the character writing and the cutscenes. They were absolutely spectacular, and despite the characters living in a fantasy world, nothing like what we live in, they were unbelievably relatable, and their emotions were so raw. The voice actors did an incredible job. To me, this has not only the best story of any of the games I've played on the Switch, but also the best world building. I just looked it up and there's estimated to be about 13 hours of cutscenes in the game in total. And yet still somehow it felt shorter than Avatar 2. The game is centered around the world of Eeowna, where 2 separate factions are constantly at war. Everyone on the battlefield was born to do one thing: to fight. Each person in each faction only lives for 10 years, but it's only when 2 groups of people from each faction come together that they realize that there may be more to life than fighting a battle they didn't even start. And the best thing about a Xenoblade storyline is you literally have no idea what's coming next. There's so many twists and turns in the story that I quite often found myself rushing the battles and exploring outside to get to the next cutscene so I can figure out what on earth is going on. The story made me laugh, the story made me cry, and at the end of it, I really felt like I'd gone through something special. Some of the topics and the lines in the story will stay with me long past the lifetime of the Nintendo Switch, and that to me is what makes a spectacular game. The Xenoblade franchise was one of the times where I really put myself out there to try a game I typically wouldn't go for, and I was so glad I did. I know a lot of people get put off by the battling style of the game, and that is totally understandable. It's like nothing I've ever played before, and moreover, even each Xenoblade game handles battling very differently. There's a ton of YouTube videos that can help you along with this, but worst case scenario, Xenoblade games always have an easy mode that lets you just explore and experience the story and makes battling not such a big part of the game, which I love. But if the story looks like something you're invested in and you want to give it a go, don't worry about the battling side so much. You can sort that out easily. I still love Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but it didn't leave quite as big an impression on me. It also didn't make me quite as emotional as Xenoblade Chronicles 3 did, and genuinely, I just found 3's story to be one of the best experiences ever. I love it to pieces. I cannot recommend it enough, and it gets so much hate, and I don't understand it. Next up is No Man's Sky. Hands down, the best Nintendo Switch port I have ever seen, and one of my favorite games, full stop. I think I have several hundred hours in this game. I'm going to have several hundred more after 2023 because I cannot stop playing it. Space exploration is just so much fun, And the best part is, you can tailor the entire experience to be as cozy or as hardcore as you can want. No Man's Sky is basically just a space exploration game where you fly off into different solar systems, land on different planets, find resources, and catalog the new plants and wildlife you see on each and every planet. Each planet is unique. Some may have water, some may be filled with ice, and others may be radioactive or just toxic. But the feeling of landing on a new planet with no idea what to expect never gets old. And I'm always constantly so blown away by the different scenery, different landscapes, the variety of plant and wildlife that I've seen so far, even hundreds of hours in. If that's not enough, the story is also fantastic, and at some points it really made you think about some really deep concepts that I was not expecting. And the nice part of the game is it gives you a really nice kind of tutorial into learning how to do everything. So despite it feeling incredibly complex and there being a ton to do, it gave you the information bit by bit so you could gradually learn and take everything into account. And as I said earlier, there are so many settings. Like for example, if you just want to explore and you don't want to have to deal with the space pirates or the toxic environments, you can literally turn on the setting that means that you basically take no damage, you don't have any health, so you don't have to worry about things like your oxygen or radioactive exposure. You can just run around and safely explore to your heart's content. Or if you want to be hardcore, you can turn on permadeath and lose everything if you die. Whichever floats your boat, really. Again, it was a game that I really took a risk on when I first bought it, and I'm so thankful I did, because it's become one of my favorites. And it's a game people don't typically think is cozy, but so many who have bought it so far have enjoyed it because you can literally tailor the experience to whatever you want it to be. Also, if you're wondering, you can have pets, you can build a home that you can decorate and put furniture inside and outside, and you can farm. There is so much to this game, and you can't deny its value for money. If you've been on the edge about buying it, do it. The port on the Switch is fantastic. Just one thing to note about the Nintendo Switch itself. At the moment, there are no online capabilities with No Man's Sky on the Switch, and it is missing some of the new things from the most recent update. So just something to bear in mind. If you have it on another platform, you might get a slightly more fuller experience, but it does run incredibly on the Switch. Next is another game I need to get back into playing as I haven't finished it yet, but it's Persona 5. This was my first ever Persona game I've played, and I have been hooked from the moment I first started playing it. At first, I was expecting it to be an incredibly combat-filled game, but I was surprised to find out I was wrong, and that actually there was a huge part of story outside of just battling. And again, this offers incredible value for money. I have plenty of friends who are over 100 hours in who haven't even finished the story yet. You play as a high school student who not only needs to get good grades, but also spends his evenings saving the world bit by bit. But you control every aspect of his life. It's your job to get him to school each day, you attend classes, and sometimes the game will even throw you a maths question when you're in maths class. You can socialize with the students, you can even text different ones of your friends on your phone. But when the school bell rings, that's when everything changes. In order to change the world, you need to go to places called palaces. These are dungeons that take place in the minds of corrupted adults who need to be changed. And it's only really in here that the battling really happens, and it's this cool turn-based mechanic that is unlike anything I've played before. And although I really enjoyed the combat, what made this game so strong and something I enjoyed so much was the story. The cutscenes are done beautifully. The characters are all fully voice acted and voice acted really well. And because of everything you do outside of the palaces and outside of battling, you really get to know each character in and out, which makes you care for them and makes you want to do your best with each battle you do. And because the palaces are all to do with changing a corrupted person, the story often revolves around how this person's so terrible, and you often see the consequences of you succeeding, which I really love, as when you're in a difficult palace, being able to see the rewards affect all the characters you love and see their lives change and other people's lives change because of it is really special, and that's what makes the game fantastic. If you've never played a Persona game before, this is a great one to start with, as it's just so much fun and you can put in hours upon hours in this game and it will feel like seconds. To me, a lot of the reasons why I love Persona 5 are why I loved Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Just everything together, the social and life sim elements, mixed with the battling and the cutscenes and an incredible story, just make for a really, really special experience, and one I cannot recommend enough. The final game on my list is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Now, I've talked about this a ton, so I won't spend too long on it, but it is not only gorgeous, it makes me laugh, and the levels are so much fun, and the game's difficulty is just like the perfect amount. My main criticism is for its price. It is a little bit short, but I love it so much. Each level you run around is so unique, each world is so different, and if you get burnt out of just doing each level, there's so much to do outside of that. There's a gacha machine, there's mini games to play. You can spend time upgrading each of your copy abilities, which by the way are fantastic. Each of them are so unique and different, and upgrading them changes your game style and adds replayability to previous levels as well. And let's not forget the beauty that is mouthful mode. That is absolutely incredible. I love it so much. And the first time I saw Kirby turn into a car is a memory that's going to stick with me forever. I just love the fact that it's not even like basic platforming. There's almost puzzles in each and every level that you do to try and get each and every one of the objectives for each level. Like sometimes I'd really have to sit and think how I was going to overcome a certain situation with the copy abilities I had, which I really liked. And the game just has so much charm. This is the cutest version of Kirby, and I genuinely think this is like the Breath of the Wild of the Kirby universe. It is its peak. I'm going to stop there, as otherwise this video would be incredibly long, but let me know your top 5 Nintendo Switch games in the comments down below, and also let me know which games should have been on this list. And if you want to see my top pick of cozy games, click this video here. I'll see you next time. Bye!